Hello, welcome back to Carla Astrology. Today we're gonna continue with the palmistry and the Myers-Briggs Association. So we are now on to the next set of four that Jung has associated with the queens, and so that includes the anything that starts with an I and ends with a J. So the Queen of Wands is associated with the INTJ. So that means that they are introverted, they are intuitive, they are thinking and judging. So there is a key for the Jung association, and that is all kings are extroverted, all knights are extroverted, all queens are introverted, and all pages are introverted. So swords and pentacles are sensory. Wands and cups are intuitive. Wands and swords are thinking. Cups and pentacles are feeling. Kings and queens are judging. And knights and pages are perceiving. So the Queen of Wands is associated with the INTJ, and the INTJ is the architect. So these are your builders. These are your creators of, the buildings, the communities, they're rational, they're informed, they are independent, obviously creative thinkers, determined, and curious. They, on the other side of that, they could be arrogant, dismissive of emotions, overly critical, combative, talking about Mars, or socially clueless. So then these, like I said, these are the, like the shadow aspect of the character type, the archetype. So a hard worker, like somebody that works with their hands, it does show in the hand, and so that's something I didn't talk about in the other videos is, texture. So a hard worker is going to show in the hand. That's where you will see the calluses and the dry skin and broken nails and stuff like that. That's very logical, that when you see that, you know that. So also the shape of the hand is going to show you the type of personality. We talked about the fire hand. So the fire hand is it's a little bit wider down here. They still have the square, or not square, the rectangular palm, and their fingers are a little bit longer. Whereas the air hand, which I think an INTJ is going to have a blended hand. I think actually as you go down into the, this is just my opinion, but as you go down through, like we're doing queens, the next four, or after this one will be 3 more videos about the queens. So then we'll get into the knights, and then we'll get into the pages, with their association with the Myers-Briggs. I think we're going to see more blending. So when I talk about these characteristics, I think, it's like, I think I said before, it's like a checklist, when you go into the doctor and you say, do you have this? Do you have this? Maybe you might not have, say 4 out of 10. Well, you might not have that. But if you have 6 out of 10, then it's a greater possibility. So these are just my opinions, and these are just things that I think you will find in an INTJ's hand. And as we go down, I think we'll see more blending. So in my opinion, an INTJ is going to have a fire hand and the blending of an air hand. I think, these individuals have a lot of fire in them. They are obviously intuitive. Um, and then Mars is in your hand. So I think along with, the shape of the hands, I believe that Mars, you have an inner, an outer, and then this is the plane of Mars. Um, I think you're going to see a bigger area right here, a bigger mount. Like, see how this little line kind of defines this fleshiness right here? I think that it would be very puffy on someone that is an INTJ. And I do believe that this may or may not be big, but if it is, that's a very good sign that this person has kind of balanced that they're trigger happy. They're less reactive and more proactive. So, but if not, then they could be more reactive, which is very indicative of somebody with a lot of fire in their personality. I also believe that Venus is going to be big. And Venus is about our sexuality, our generosity, our vitality, physical vitality. So Venus, I believe, is going to be big. I think Mercury is going to be a good size mount because Mercury is where we communicate. Even though the INTJ is introverted, I still believe that they are great communicators. They just may not want to be the first one out there communicating it, but they can. And that I think that they are great communicators. So with talking about strengths and weaknesses, the one thing that I kept thinking about after the first 4 is that, when we see certain things that we manifest in our hands, I think that it shows where we are. Like this is my left hand, so it's the potential I was born with. So this is my potential. These are the things that I am capable of being or becoming. The characteristics that I was born with, that have a lot to do with how I treat other people or how I approach life or my children or. And then this is kind of what I've done with the potential. So like this is my left hand. I'm right-handed, so this is my dominant hand. I do a lot of things with both of my hands, but I catch a ball with my right hand. And I want to write with my right hand. I can write with my left, but it's not as legible. So I'm going to say I'm primarily right-handed, but I am ambidextrous in some things. So I'm still going to look at my right hand to see what I've done with the potential that I was born with. So, and we see things that, we're going to see things that aren't always auspicious. They might be, it might show where we're lacking. So, and I think that there's certain things that can change in your hand. And I think that is the little lines, and the fleshiness of our palms. I don't think that that's so much predetermined like DNA and then it manifests in our character. Although I think that like people with clubbed fingertips or spatulate fingertips, I do think that that is very indicative of somebody that is prone to have a short temper. But that doesn't mean that they haven't learned how to be less reactive and more pro-reactive. So like you and I might not see that, that they have a tendency to be reactive. You know what I mean? Just from meeting them. We're only going to know that if we've known them for most of their life. So it's like I could look at a hand and I could see somebody that might have a spatula looking fingertip, or a club fingertip. And I talked about that in the thumbs. Like this is the short, they call it the murderous thumb. This is somebody that's very reactive and doesn't think about their actions. They just, that's it. I'm mad and I'm reacting. Or you have, this is more like the spatula thumb. So it's just, I think you get the idea. So like somebody with a heart issue or something like that, that's not, that is more of, um, that shows their health issue. Whereas, you know, if that's not, they don't have a heart issue and you see this, these are people that are probably more prone to be more reactive. So, and that person could be thinking, yeah, but I don't do that anymore. So you will see things in their hand that show that they have been working on that. So it's like, you really, I mean, you can look at somebody's hand and see that and think, ooh, that person's quick tempered. But they could be working on that for the last 10 years. So you're not going to see that until you actually get deep into their hand, because the little lines change. Our major lines don't, but I thought I'd draw this up. So like, this is your heart line. And so say this right here would be considered a sister line. So it's like somebody, and that may not have been there, you know, say it's not in their, what the potential they were born with, but it's in the hand that they're manifesting with. So, there might all of a sudden show a sister line because they have learned to emotionally support themselves. You know, same with like, these, not all, or say they haven't really worked on it, or it's something they just never really became self-aware. So that shows too. So you got to pay attention to the little lines that are connected to the major lines that don't change, because that's where we see improvement, or maybe we've declined on something. So, and I think that's polarity, but I do believe that it manifests. It's just, it's not always so apparent when we're looking at the shapes of our hands. So that's where I talk about thumbs. So now let's get into, let's talk about these major lines. So the heart line, I think, like say a INTJ that is very balanced, I think might have a slight curve, but actually no curve shows somebody that has their emotions in check. But not always is that good, because you think you're still going to see somebody that is prone to be a little bit emotional. They either act on it, or they don't act on it at all, because they've learned to deny that part of themselves. So I would say straight, or maybe just a little curved, is actually pretty good for this type. And I think you might see that. The headline, again, is going to be nice and deep. It doesn't necessarily have to be long, but like, so somebody that has a like a bigger curve is going to show imbalance in their emotions. And we're talking about the heart again. And then somebody that has a curved heart line that is more curved is also going to show, well, not so much like a bowl, but curved up. It also shows somebody that is romantic. A straight shows somebody that is stable. So the headline, if it goes downward, that's somebody that is having trouble in their thinking. So it's kind of a complicated, they're not really in touch with reality. So you're going to want to see a fairly straight, deep headline. Because that again shows somebody with a strong mind. Now, if it is curved a little bit, this is somebody that is gentle and tolerant, and that's more than likely going to belong to somebody with a water or an earth type personality. So, lifeline, I believe, like there's another line, like a sister line they call the girdle of Venus, and that is somebody that has a lot of has a great sexual appetite. But that is, again, the lifeline surrounds Venus. So you're going to want to see a nice deep line. Now, whether it's short or long, if it's short, that shows more of the independent person. But again, if it's long, it shows a deeper vitality for life. So that's going to vary, but for a person that is well balanced, I think you will see a longer or a deeper. It'll be deep, because it is all the other things that show, like the trials and tribulations in our life. And I'm not going to say, though, that how we are like born, our potential does affect how we approach all those trials and tribulations too. So it's still important. Okay, yeah, so I talked about like the different lines. There's also something else that we can see now, and I think a lot of people have asked about this. So the farther away that your headline and your lifeline are is a sign of extroversion. So, and like mine is a little bit a ways, but it has these crosses. So it's like a person, I might have been, even though they're there on this hand, I was still born maybe with the tendency to not be as introverted as I am or have been, because it gets easier every day. But little trials and tribulations that you go through in your childhood, it's kind of like why we do shadow work, cause people to become introverted. So, and I don't think that either one is good or bad. I just think that sometimes it's easier for people, more natural for people that are extroverted. It's like they don't think about it. It's not something they work on. Whereas for like myself, I have to work on putting myself out there. But if you look at my hand, it shows that the reason that is because I went through some stuff as a child. And it doesn't necessarily mean it was bad things, but it was things that affected my way of thinking. So, and that does show in our hands. So originally, if you were somebody that did not have these X's in between here joining these, and say you just had a blank line in here, that is a sign of somebody that is extremely extroverted. But a person that is introverted, like born to be introverted, these two lines would be connected right here. That's a very high indication of somebody that was born to be introverted. It's not easy for them to put themselves out there. But then you see this, and that's because something in their life shaped their way of thinking, and they became introverted. So they weren't necessarily born that way. So I thought that was an interesting fact. It's just palmistry. So fact or not fact, it's probably more a matter of opinion, and I should not have said fact. So excuse me for that, please. So I think that's all I'm going to cover. I do think that the hands will be redder, because red and pink are very healthy and show a lot of physical vitality. So yeah, I think that's about it. I think for the most part, anytime you have a conic hand or rounded fingertips, those are the people that are easy to talk to, easy to get along with. The reason I brought up the clubbed is because I do think that there is a lot of fire in this personality. So that could be a very good indication that there is a lot of fire in the personality. And that's all the pictures that I drew for this one. And I will see you in the next one when we talk about the Queen of Cups. So thank you for joining me today, and I love you guys very much.